guys, before we get into the video, I just wanted to say if you came here just for the guide on how to grind golden sneaks efficiently, first of all try to do it at nighttime, as I'm pretty sure they're more likely to spawn at this time, and I've also left timestamps for you to skip through to if you were just looking for that part. However, I would highly recommend watching the entire video just because it might be beneficial for any completionists if you are looking to try to grind for specific seals and other items. Now, with that out of the way, let's get on to the video. I've seen many people saying RGG hates completionists, and it's easy to see why if that were the case. Maybe some completionists might pick up on bugs or exploits or other features not intended by the game's devs. For instance, why is this pelican rider so dummy thick? Why does this guy have no spine? And most importantly, what in God's name did they do to make this sound, and why does it make me physically repulse every time I hear it? Regardless of all of this, I did begin to wonder, how do item drops actually work in Ishin? And why do sometimes I find complete crap? And why do sometimes I find actually useful seals? That's when it hit me. What if the item drops are actually similar to that of Yakuza 0? After all, some of the game's mechanics as well as the look feel similar to that of 0, so why not this game too? Remember when you helped that dude in 0 ages ago and he gave you a bronze plate for helping him out, and then much later you helped someone else out and they gave you a diamond or a platinum plate instead? I figured the drop system might have been similar. To put this to the test, I decided to complete this game from the beginning on New Game Plus with a special twist. What if I were to kill 100 sneaks each chapter and see if item drops change over time? It started at this, and then I realized, hey, why don't I also log every other item that I get? Minimum of maybe 100 per chapter just for regular enemy drops as well as sneaks? And also compare this with other chapters to see if this was also true. I really hope there is someone out there who can find this guide useful, because it took a lot of grinding and unnecessary at times, mind you, to be able to continue, and I really hope this saves at least someone or many people some time. So if you just want to see the results as well, I've also linked a spreadsheet down below with the results I found for each chapter with the new items being in bold, where I hadn't found them from that item source in any previous chapter. Also, quick disclaimer, with these results please take it with a grain of salt, as it is entirely possible I just got super lucky with the spawns, but I still think there's value in some of these results, even given the sheer volume of the items that I found and the number of enemies that I also fought. But in any case, look, with all of that out of the way, let's get into how each chapter went. Probably goes without saying, spoiler warning. I went with New Game Plus just to make things easier, and I also kept the Rogue's Mask on me, which really did help me look out for patterns in the enemy spawns, and I also did it on Legend difficulty just because why not? But in any case, look, with Chapter 1 I decided not to do the 100 sneaks or enemy drops just because I really could not be bothered to find out if sneaks even spawned, and decided much later to start recording enemy drops as well after I had actually completed Chapter 1 instead of just focusing on the sneaks. Look, nothing too out of the ordinary, however I did get some basic stuff. By the way, if you ever do want to actually grind regular materials, just do the dungeon battles. It's way easier and quicker than what I've been doing, but to be fair, I'm doing this for science. Now, Chapter 2 took a while. I couldn't use any cool techniques that were much more efficient than the ones in the later chapters, but it did provide a good baseline for item drops that I could at least compare to future chapters. How I did it in Chapter 2 was I followed a very specific path, which is as follows, and I would occasionally look out for more sneak spawns by opening the minimap. Thanks to the Rogue's Mask, my minimap actually would highlight sneaks as indicated by single enemy spawns. Now, I want to highlight a few sneak spawns here that you might want to be mindful of, and if a sneak goes into this path, go on and follow him and try to actually fight him in this alleyway, because while you do head out this way as well, you might actually find another sneak that spawns on the right hand side, so just keep an eye on your minimap as well. Now, it is worth noting that the seals I found at this point was actually very interesting compared to future chapters. I actually found a total of 4 Kiwami seals, that's both sphere and square seals, out of the 100 sneaks that I actually fought, which is more than any of the individual future chapters. It started to make me think as well, maybe a saturated item pool would also decrease the likelihood of finding specific seals in later chapters, but hey, it's anyone's guess at this point. Anyway, found some seals from sneaks and regular enemies, but nothing too notable. Couple of brawlers, couple of attack, bleach cloth, what have you. And yeah, I tried getting it done as quickly as possible. Chapter 3 was a little unfortunate since it didn't actually allow me to skip to nighttime, meaning fewer sneak spawns, and at the latest it actually got to the evening. Now, look, First thing I did here was I became max friendship with all the Pelican Riders, which opened up a new location right here. Here's where the Rogue's Hat becomes super helpful. First, equip the Rogue's Hat if you have one. Next, talk to this individual right here that you've created from your friendship. If there are no spawns on the bridge from the map that the Pelican Rider brings up, back out and pan to the right, or open your mini-map and just confirm if there are a cluster of enemies or just a single enemy. If there is a single enemy, it's a sneak. Have at him and just be careful because talking to the rider may reset the enemy again. Thankfully, if there's an enemy on the mini-map this guy shows you, it won't re-roll until you actually talk to him again after seeing this map. If you don't have a Rogue's Mask, just move your camera between talks, but obviously that is slower. If it's a cluster, just talk to this guy again and it'll re-roll the cluster of enemies, and just make sure that they're also static. Now, this next part's very important. Please pay attention to the spawn location, as at certain points if they don't spawn at the very end of the bridge, and they are static or, in other words, not moving, they may actually be blocked from spawning there, and this method won't work. However, from chapter 4 onwards, if they are blocked, enter this gate specifically and come back. Now just be mindful of this area, because a cluster might spawn here that is not moving, which may actually block spawns here temporarily. But if that does happen, feel free to just walk in and out of the gambling hall just to reset the zone again. Basically, enemy clusters and sneaks can't spawn too close to each other. By the way, this technique does work for all chapters from chapter 4 onwards, which I did not realize until the premium adventure, sadly, so this was a little bit of a pain to actually do. This only works partially in chapter 3 just because this archway is actually blocked, but if you do get things spawning, great. You can actually just see villagers phase through the fence if you do end up fighting anyone here. Also, highlight some other spawn locations while you are heading back across the bridge, as they may actually spawn in these locations as well, so just pay attention. Now, for anyone who has just skipped to this part of the timestamp and you just wanted the guide without spoilers, please stop watching now, and best of luck with your grinding. Anyway, back to chapter 3, and I eventually got 100 sneaks after grinding enough, and interestingly I didn't actually find anything new from any of the sneaks, but that being said, I did find a bronze hammer from the regular enemies, which I didn't previously, but we just chalked this up to luck. Pots, on the other hand, I did notice a lot of new items. Not going to get too much into it because I logged all of that into the spreadsheet as well, which once again is down below. Chapter 4 came and went, and it was pretty much the same, but this archway was open. Unfortunately though, it did leave that mission marker, which did obscure my minimap's revision, but hey look, I didn't find anything new from this chapter. Chapter 5 came and the bridge spawn was blocked. Again, by this point I didn't actually think to enter and leave this archway, but static enemies weren't spawning, so I just changed my approach. Look, I would notably try to go for this guy in particular, just because moving to the side of the bridge would actually reset the spawns on this side, or if they were ambush enemies or enemies positioned like this, or enemies that were even close enough to me, talking to the Pelican Rider would actually reset the spawns on this side. Before this though, I'd actually resort to running to this crate in particular and back to the bridge, and it may have caused a sneak to spawn on the bridge itself that was moving around, but it took so much longer, and it wasn't even guaranteed. Also, if there were clusters here, occasionally talking to the rider wouldn't actually reset them, so I'd just have to resort to go into the gambling then to reset. I didn't find any new sneak items, however I did find a lot of new items from the regular enemies, including a brawl seal somehow and an educated seal, which really did surprise me at first. Chapter 6 I found 2 new items, one from pots, one from enemies. Aside from that it was pretty much the same, and this was suffering. You see, I thought I couldn't progress with this part of the story, because otherwise I'd be forced to carry on to the next chapter, but I realized much later that this doesn't actually mark the end of the chapter, but it's cool, I got through it eventually. Chapter 7 was actually also the same grind method as the last chapter, but it really did start to showcase some of the difference in item drops. For instance, I found a bunch of new items and seals from both the sneaks and the enemies that I hadn't previously, including Fierce Battle, Reversal, Special Moves, and Endurance from just sneaks specifically, which gave me hope that maybe my theory was actually right. Chapter 8 wasn't too special in terms of pots or sneaks, but the enemies did actually start dropping higher quality items. Maybe, like I said before, the game actually increases item pools for certain sources too as the game progresses. Chapter 9 started and I decided to get wasted with the lads, and I was so relieved to see that the better grinding method started working again. They even slightly helped me out. Only slightly though, but look, I appreciate the help regardless. After grinding enough for me to get sober and accidentally stepping on this dog a few too many times, which yes, I did feel horrible for, I did find these two new seals for sneaks. Chapter 10 was the same method but with Majima instead, calling them by their Yakuza names, dammit, sue me. I found a few new items for regular enemies but nothing too notable. Chapter 11, the method stopped working, and I had to resort to the really slow method, which possibly could have been fixed, but again I had no idea how to at this point. To make matters worse, Majima was actually standing right here, which if you don't know, at some points in the game you can actually see cutscene characters in town. Because he was here specifically, this spawn was actually blocked. Not going to be too upset at him though, because again this was on me for not finding out that better method sooner. That being said, I did end up finding two new seals from sneaks as well as some newer items from regular enemies and pots. Now chapter 12 would have been good for me if I was looking for experience seals. The town's actually on fire and there's only one enemy cluster spawn that exists, which was very easy to reset just by turning this corner and going back, but maybe there were more spawns elsewhere. I couldn't access those, but I couldn't be bothered waiting to find out anyway. Still though, this spawn point specifically still gave me two experience seals, so I mean there's that. No new items from pots though. 13, everything was back to normal, but it was a slow technique again. I did, however, notice the higher quality troopers which I was getting, which, hey, good to know, right? I also did find some new seals for both the sneaks and the enemies, which were good to know. And somehow, from pots, I did actually exceed the storage limit for pillbox. It did raise the question of what the hell should I do with these now? There was one thing I could think of. I beat the final parts of the game and Kuze started bleeding at me menacingly, and thereby I continued on to the premium adventure to see if that would fix things with grinding. It didn't. And this is how I began to find out the hard way on how the technique worked, and particularly about going in and out of this archway. I went to a previous save in a previous playthrough and enemies were spawning in this particular part of the bridge. I was determined to figure this out on why this was the case. Every sub-story done, memoir completed, friendship and dungeon completed, I'd come back to see if it started working again. Then something happened. I had the idea that this guy in particular was the reason it stopped working. Maybe I progressed his friendship far enough that for some reason it blocked this bridge spawn in particular. I finished his friendship and went back. It started working again. I reloaded to a separate save to see for certain if it was him. Turns out it actually wasn't. I loaded to a save to the point where I never talked to him at all. But I entered and left the area and realized it started working again. I loaded several saves for most of the chapters and it did the same. It worked in every single chapter except for obviously 3 and prior, as well as specifically chapter 9. Anyway, I was so angry, but maybe this was a blessing. At least I could do the premium adventure grind a little easier. Anyway, I found several new seals from sneaks and enemies, including Awaken from regular enemies for some reason, and from the regular sneaks, a couple which I'll once again list in the spreadsheet and have highlighted here. You may notice that on the spreadsheet I have one extra sneak on there, or even more. That's because by this point I just felt finished with recording my drops and I just wanted to grind for another upcoming video idea, but also wanted to add any not before seen seals to this list in hopes that it will help anyone else. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I really hope this guide helps, and once again, link to the spreadsheet in the description. New items not before seen in a new chapter I'll put in bold, so just be sure to use that Control F function. And please like and share this. I've got a far more exciting video coming up, so please hit that subscribe button. It means a lot, and I did put a lot of time and effort into this. For the time being though, thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.